The beginning of October in the year 2021 was warm in the Uchkaz-Stenkino, Ryazan district. The few inhabitants of the tiny village were simple and helpful, and they were taking their time to finish their garden work. The parent of 15-year-old Roman Fedulova, a recently divorced mother of many children, was happy to have an opportunity to earn money for her beloved children. The fact that she had to work shifts and live for weeks in a nearby village did not bother her. Her offspring were no longer young, hard-working, obedient. And what can happen when all around are their own people? Going to work in early October, the woman of many children dreamed of buying the youngest daughter some boots and a laptop for Roman's 16th birthday. He is so eager to study at the institute. Immersed in the humdrum of everyday life, the woman did not think how abruptly her simple happiness could be cut short. She did not know that the dreaded evening of October 9 is very close to her, and it will cut, like a knife, her life into before and after. This is the Defunct City channel. Subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to click on the bell, so as not to miss new episodes and stay up to date. On October 9 of the year 2021, a tired woman was riding the bus from her shift. When she saw the familiar signpost of Uchkaz-Stenkino ahead, she wondered how bored she was with her monotonous life. Now she would enter the house. Her 15-year-old son, Roman, as usual, did not do the cleaning. Gotta see. Everything is as usual. I wish there was some kind of change. Ironically, in a few minutes, the lady will have forgotten all her past problems. She would rush around the house and yard, rush to the neighbors, and start screaming into the phone. In another half an hour, the police and ambulance will come to the house. Gawkers will gather at the house, and the money the woman received for her work shift will remain forgotten in a tossed bag on the doorstep. This is where the dark evening of October 9 became truly frightening for the Fedulov family. He revealed to the world something that is impossible for an ordinary person to imagine. He made it clear that Roma, the charming boy with the blonde curls, was gone. Not in his room, where he slept, did his homework, and hung out online. Not in the house his mother had furnished specifically for children. Not in the yard of neighbors, relatives, friends, in the village, in the woods, and on the roads. There is no Roma in the police, in the hospital, in the morgue. All that is left, distraught with grief, the loss of the child's mother, is to frantically continue to look for and hope. And with her hope continued, and the whole Uchkaz-Stenkino, the whole Ryazan district, and then all of Russia. This strange, ridiculous, but no less frightening incident left a mark in the souls of people all over the country. Looking ahead, we must say that the case was solved. But that did not make those who knew about it any calmer. The unimaginable circumstances that surfaced after the investigation into the incident created fear and anxiety in the minds of the people. And with them, the parents of the entire country are still living to this day. So, returning home from a watch, the mother of 15-year-old Roman Fedulov found that he was not there. The woman, as usual, thought that the boy was out with friends. However, his things were in their places. Having walked around the yard to no avail, the mother resolutely rushed to the bed of the teenager to clarify the whole situation. And in horror, dumbfounded, there was blood under the carelessly thrown blanket. The unhappy woman rushed out of the house and called the police. A search was launched. The missing person report was responded to immediately and fully. Police and experts surveyed the family home, studied the guy's activity on the internet. Volunteers put up orienteering signs and started combing the woods. The investigators followed a pattern that had been proven over the years. They began to closely examine the circumstances of Roma's life, his hobbies, friends, and family. And very soon it became clear. The standard route of investigation turned out to be the most effective. Law enforcement officials of the Ryazan district, who were searching for Roman, from the very beginning, chose the most simple and standard manner of investigation. In conversations with the mother, they found out whether her son was prone to conflicts and escapes. whether he was into substances. That was the age, they said. But the woman flatly refused to consider the possibility of her son running away or taking drugs. Roman Fedulov was known in his native Uchkoz as a very calm, diligent, and obedient, not yet an adult boy. If I see him in the street, he always says hello and smiles. He was bright and not malicious, not a bully. The neighbors spoke with one voice about him. Following their legal duties, local law enforcers still filed a criminal complaint under the article murder, and that, in turn, had already obliged them to carry out a large number of activities. These included a standard roundup of security camera footage in the area, and the first measure was successful. But not at all the kind of success that the boy's mother and the whole country had secretly hoped for. Thanks to modern technical means, the Ryazan police almost immediately managed to get a major lead in the case. Camera footage from the car wash, located near Uchkoz, gave very interesting information. According to them, on October 9, at 3 o'clock in the morning, Vladislav Tsikhanov arrived at the facility in his car, proved by the license plate. Roman's mother's ex-spouse, and accordingly his stepfather. With him was a young companion. Together, the couple carefully washed the car and shoes, and then promptly departed. What could have forced people to urgently wash the car at 3 in the morning in cold October? Asked the same question, the investigators went to Tsikhanov's house for an examination. By the way, it did not take long to go. The former stepfather lived in the second half of the house, the first of which was occupied by his ex and her 2 children, as well as Fedulova and Tsikhanov's common daughter. The man behaved reservedly, spoke monotonously, denied any involvement in the disappearance of his stepson. However, his words almost immediately lost all meaning. The stepfather's car showed traces of blood not completely washed away, and it was Roma's. The boy's blood was also found in his sneakers, found in the garage. Upon learning about this, Fedulov's mother almost lost her mind. What could the monster do to the boy if all his shoes are entirely soaked in blood from children's veins? Even before the examination data were obtained, Vladislav Tsikhanov quietly kept silent. And, as it turned out, he had experience in this. In the past, the man had already served time for theft, and about a year ago, he was questioned more than once by the local precinct officer. At that time, Fedulov's lawful wife still filed a complaint against him. She complained that her husband was allegedly abusing her and trying to poison her dog. The law enforcer did not respond to her complaint. The mother of many children divorced her conflicted spouse and separated from him into different halves of the house she bought together. At the police station, the experienced convict Tsikhanov did not panic, hoping to the end to remain uncaught. However, the irrefutable evidence presented to him by experts on October 13th made him confess to what he had done. Reluctantly, the man muttered that the boy's body was to be found in the woods, in the village of Zinyanki, in an old well. Having rushed to the specified place, the investigators made a terrible discovery. The body of 15-year-old Roman Fedulov, wrapped in polyethylene and scotch tape, covered with garbage, was in a well shaft. At the place where the child's body was found, even the veteran investigators felt uneasy. However, what they learned a little later threw them into indescribable shock and made them doubt whether the suspect Vladislav Tsikhanov was human. A pathologist's examination of the high-profile case was conducted immediately. Having examined Roma's body, the expert unequivocally stated that the guy died of blood loss caused by a stabbing. This, by the way, was also confirmed by the data of the site inspection. The experts found that in Roman's room, his blood was everywhere, in the bed, on the carpet, and even on the ceiling. So the guy died of his wounds. However, the pathologist was not surprised by their presence, but by how they had been inflicted. According to the examination and hardware research, it appeared that Roma had been struck in the area below the clavicles with 2 knives from both sides at the same time, and apparently the boy had been hit in the head beforehand, so he wouldn't resist the execution. By the time the expert came to his strange conclusion, the accused in Fedulov's murder was already ready to give a detailed testimony. Realizing that he would face a huge prison sentence, Sakunov decided to soften his sentence and cooperate with the investigation, but at the same time to shift part of the blame onto another person. Vladislav told the investigators a story that surprised them, the likes of which they had never heard before. According to the story of the killer, after a forced divorce, he longed to be reunited with his wife and the whole family. And for this, oddly enough, he decided to enlist the help of a young woman and concurrently his roommate of 28 years, Maria Korneva. By the way, she was not an easy lady and was physically well prepared. Korneva was a successful professional athlete, 3 times champion of Russia in archery biathlon. It uses a bow instead of a rifle. Why the young person was attracted to the 51-year-old villager is unknown. Only a year before the tragic events, she sold her apartment in Ryazan and moved closer to Vladislav, and after his divorce settled next door to his former rival and her children. Sakunov said amazing things allegedly in order to make his former spouse love him again. He was going to do a spell on blood, and to do that, he had to draw special dark signs on someone's body with a knife. When Roman's mother left on watch, they decided to make him a donor for the bloody ritual. Continuing the chilling narrative, Vladislav Sakunov recounted. At about 21 o'clock on the 8th of October, he and Maria drove up in the car to the Stepsons' house. The girl was already ready. She had taken with her 2 drawing knives, and a wrench wrapped in rags to stun, simply explained to her lover she. The man remained waiting in the car. A short time later, as the perpetrator recalls, his accomplice came running to him with round eyes. I accidentally killed him. Walking into the house, the stepfather saw the stepson with his head smashed on the bed. The marks that Maria had begun to draw at the boy's collarbone remained unfinished. The girl expertly explained that only a living person can perform the ritual. And that was it. Having agreed with the state of affairs, Vladislav and his beloved loaded the corpse into their car, drove it to the woods, there packed it up, and hid it in a well. And then, on reflection, they decided to wash the car in a hurry. What they didn't realize was that it wasn't that easy to wash off the blood. No matter how much the investigators had seen in their lifetime, it was hard for them to believe in such a stupid explanation for the murder of a child by a sober adult. However, all the crazy deductions of the boyfriend, completely and independently of him, confirmed Maria Korneva. The 28-year-old titular archer readily admitted her guilt, stating that she killed the boy alone and tearfully asked Vladislav to help hide the body. The alleged perpetrators of the painful death of Roman Fedulov were placed in pre-trial detention facility for the duration of the investigation, and it is required by law to verify the truth of the accused and restore the true picture of the incident. In order to do this, the investigators began questioning witnesses. What kind of occultist is he? The neighbors unanimously asserted. He was a sly trickster and a thief. He served time for theft and sort of settled down. But here we go again. A lot of people in our village have lost things to people he's visited. What's the police going to do about it? He killed the boy so his mother would come running back to him with grief. They share the house. They don't want to share it. And then there's the young mistress. Probably wanted to have kids. She wants a place to live. Locals said that Sakunov tried to be inconspicuous. He made friends with many people. Yes, but he always spoke tensely, peppered with quotes from books on psychology. People suspected that he stole and did not drink at all. They recall that a few years ago, even before his marriage to Fedulova, Sakunov brought a girl with a child from the city. However, the couple did not live long. The young wife began to complain about insults and beatings, and soon left back to Ryazan. And after a short time, the police confirmed it. Strangely enough, She died by throwing herself out the window. Considering that Vladislav's second wife endured beatings from him and then lost her son. A very strange trend is emerging. Many in Uchkos are inclined to the version that Sekunov might have worked the occult in order to divert suspicion from himself, or to appear insane, if anything, or to make himself look like a witch in order to charm and induce Korneva, a strong, but young and naive fan, to carry out his plan. At the same time, there were those in the village who believed in the sincerity of the bloody stepfather's mystical hopes. In favor of this version was the fact that, as it turned out, the killer had an internet store with amulets and charms, and the house where he lived was notorious. Many years before the Fedulovs moved in, a relative of the family had taken the life of a fellow villager. Then, after he was released from prison, he in turn died at the hands of his own son, Uncle Roman. A year and 4 months before the child's death, another man parted with his life in these unfortunate walls. A murderer who has not been found. What in fact was the cause of a terrible tragedy in the quiet Ryazan province, for which an innocent child died a horrible death? Only the self-serving stepfather, Sekunov, is guilty of this. Or, perhaps, some force draws the inhabitants of the house into the wilds of mysticism and drives them insane. The answer to that question will probably never come to us. The pair of killers remain in custody, awaiting the end of all forensic examinations and an accurate verdict. And parents of children across the country are relentlessly gazing at all the relatives, friends, and neighbors around them. They fear that a seemingly ordinary man or successful girl will suddenly turn into monsters, doing bloody deeds under the cover of night.